Good morning, everybody. We're so sorry we're starting a little late. We're here with a special edition of IGN Live to kick off the release of the new Assassin's Creed 3 reveal trailer, which will be going up in about 22 minutes. And as you can see, we are downloading it right now. We're going to be watching it for the first time, and we're going to be digging into what we know so far, what we learned from the trailer, and getting you everything you need to know about Assassin's Creed 3. I am Peter Eichemans.
Yeah, I'm Rich.
This is not Mitch. This is Darren from our video team, working very hard to make sure we get the trailer ready for everybody. And Mitch will be joining us very shortly as soon as the trailer's ready to go. So, Rich.
Yeah.
We saw the box art last week. There was a leak of the first image, concept art.
We've seen a bunch of details at this point, and you know, Game Informer's story has even come out finally. You know, they had the first full details on the game. We actually know quite a bit about the game. There's a lot. There's a lot of gameplay details we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but we know a lot of basics. We actually have the box art pulled up on our site here, and you know, we know a bit about the main character, right? So his name's Connor. He's half Native American, half English, which presumably means British. You know, so you know, he's actually got kind of a sort of vested interest in sort of both sides, because we know the game is set during the American Revolution.
The year being?
Well,
history test.
So we're about, it's a 30-year span, right? Okay. So it's like, I think it's 1753 to 1783, and obviously 1776 being when the Declaration of Independence happens. So, you know, that's sort of like firmly in the middle of the span of years this game will kind of encompass. And, you know, if you kind of think back to Assassin's Creed 2 and 2 Brotherhood and 2 Revelations, you know, the first game actually, Assassin's Creed 2, sorry, encompasses actually quite a bit of time. You know, you're there from Ezio's birth through, you know, most of his youth, and it seems like that's actually what Assassin's Creed 3 is going to do.
Okay, real quick, Rich. For anyone just joining us, like I said, we're going to be debuting the Assassin's Creed 3 trailer here. We're taking all your questions live via Twitter, so send out your messages and your questions, comments to @IGN, #AC3. I'm pulling them up here live as we go, and we're going to get into as much as we possibly can and answer whatever we possibly can.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is as we watch the trailer, we'd love to get your comments and thoughts on the trailer and just your thoughts on the game. I mean, obviously, we haven't played the game, you know, and so this is very early. This is not like some of our other live streams where we play the game and we're answering everything that we've played that you haven't. So, you know, I actually am very curious to see what people think. It seems like the buzz is just off the charts from what we can tell. Just, you know, people seem very interested. So, but yeah, so I mean, and a few other details. We know it's coming to Xbox 360. We know it's coming to PlayStation 3 and PC. And we know it's coming out this year. October 30th, 2012 is actually the confirmed release date for the United States. Okay. So it's on its way fast. Let's see, what else do we know that it's actually running off a new engine. This is not the same engine that the last 4 games have been running on. Basically, when Assassin's Creed 2 wrapped development, they basically took that team, that core team, and put them on this game. So Brotherhood and Revelations are actually other teams that were just working on developing the story of Ezio. Okay. And so, you know, this is, you know, their A-team or whatever coming over to do the next major rebranding reinstallment, or, you know, next installment of Assassin's Creed.
Okay, so kind of going off of that, we're going to dig into some of what you guys are saying to us and wondering so far. Sure. If this is getting back to the main development team, you know, even though the last 2 games, Brotherhood and Revelations, were done by side teams, Guillermo Ghost is asking, will we see Desmond?
Yeah, so Desmond is in this game. We know that for sure. And all indications seem to be that this is actually going to be Desmond's final game. Okay. What that means, I don't know. Hey, there's Mitch.
This is Mitch Dyer, everyone.
Hi. Yeah.
Carry on.
Where were we? So, yeah, we do know Desmond's in the game. We know that sort of in Desmond's modern timeline, you know, it's set in the year 2012, which, you know, lines up perfectly. The game's coming towards the end of 2012. End of the year prophecies, Mayans, and all that stuff. So we'll see exactly what happens. We really don't know what extent Desmond factors into this. I mean, the last game, he was sort of on the side.
Yeah, he was a small part of it.
He was completely optional outside of the beginning and the end. Yeah.
Well, not really.
Nah, not really. So, yeah, I mean, yes, he is in the game. We don't know to what extent, though. Yeah.
Okay.
More comments, questions?
Yeah, let's get into it. Rob Herring's asking, or says, I bet the main Templar city will be Lower Manhattan. Britain took it in 1776. Game is set in, with a question mark, 1777 to 1778?
Yeah, so
what settings do you think
I got my crib notes here. 1753 to 1783, like we were saying, and then obviously there'll be the modern day component. You know, it's very likely that you'll have your modern stuff set in New York because at the very end of Revelations, sort of spoilers, I don't know really, but Desmond is in New York. Let's put it that way. So I mean, like, there's something there. They were sort of doing some weird, trippy, kind of crazy hints about it and everything, but. So fair assumption that this one he's in New York as well.
That's also where the Mohawk tribe settled, I believe, is in New York.
Oh, look at you!
I know. I did my American
Someone's
history
doing his research. Yeah, and that's actually a good point. That we mentioned Connor's half Native American. Right. Mohawk tribe is the tribe that he belongs to.
Okay.
And you actually. From what Ubisoft has said, you actually witness sort of the destruction of his camp or the settlement that he's in, and that sort of spurs him onward into the larger conflict.
Childhood tragedy of some kind. They say.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happened to Ezio. Altair is a little different, but Ezio, same thing. Is some of his family is killed, and he's sort of pushed into this greater conflict. So we're all good. Are we good?
Great. We got it.
Okay, cool.
Oh man, you guys, we are 16 minutes away from premiering the Assassin's Creed 3 first trailer.
It sucks as we have it here, but we can't show it to you for 15 more minutes.
Yeah. I know, it's here.
I'm watching it.
I can almost catch it. So anyone out there just tuning in, please send over your questions via Twitter to @IGN, #AC3. We're going to try and dig into as much as we know about it so far, what we think we know. And then at 9 o'clock sharp, we're all going to get very quiet and watch the trailer for the first time. And after that, keep sending in your questions. And, we're going to break it down and see what we can see from the trailer and see how it, illuminates more of this game coming out end of October this year. So continue what we were saying before. Let's see. Colin's asking. There's many Collins out there, but one is asking.
This is Moriarty.
Which one of the Collins from The Office is this?
He's saying, and this is kind of speculation beyond even the game itself, he says, with such a diverse time period, do you think there will be follow-up games like the others? Like, he means Brotherhood, Revelations, kind of the side, non-numbered Assassin's Creeds.
I mean, we don't know for sure, right? I think Ubisoft would want to.
Yeah.
But here's the big question, right? So, this is arguably maybe the last full year before the next consoles start really showing up. Mm-hmm. We know that Wii U is showing up this year, but we don't really know where the next Xbox are and where and the PlayStation are. So if they launch next year, what do you do with Assassin's
Be right in the
Creed?
middle.
What you've been working on already.
It's a tricky question for them to answer, and I think that just, we can tell that this game, the interest in Assassin's Creed 3 is just off the charts. So what do you do? I think that Ubisoft would very much like to, capitalize.
Yep.
But how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
You just finished your new engine too. So
we know Desmond's story is ending. So do they start with a new modern character to go back in time again?
I don't know.
Plenty of options.
I mean, and the other strategy that they could eventually adopt is, we saw 2 and 2B and 2R being all Ezio, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you do 3 with Connor, then you go away from Connor, then you come back to Connor.
Yeah,
You could,
that could happen.
Conceivably do that. I think that people might, one of the common complaints about the Assassin's Creed franchise is it comes out every year, and at least the last 3 of them, you're just like Ezio, and they all start feeling the same. So maybe you are switching it up a bit, and then maybe that's what you do.
Yeah. Can we bring up this box art real quick, just for one of the first things we know so far? Peter Fitzsimmons is saying, just straight comment, I really like the new direction for the 3rd game. So let's take a look at what we know from this.
Straightforward. Yeah, I mean, this is Connor, obviously. A few cool things to show. Obviously, he's fighting the British here. It's important to note, actually, that Ubisoft is saying that it's not black and white in terms of, sort of the colonialists and the British Empire. Like, the colonialists aren't all going to seem like, oh, we're the good guys, we're perfect, and, the British aren't going to be the sort of an evil empire marching in. They want sort of the shades of gray.
Yeah.
It's more focused on the conflict between the Assassins and the Templars. In this setting, it's not like pro-America, that sort of stuff. They just want to make sure that people understand that. And we'll show some more of the box art later, but one of the things that you can actually see sort of hidden in the background is there's another assassin in the background.
Oh, really?
So Connor's there. He's taking out a
interesting.
British dude, but there's another assassin in the background. So UB has not given us too many concrete gameplay details, but one of the things we do know is the concept of some sort of brotherhood is there. I don't know how extensive it will be. You know, obviously when Ezio, by the time Revelations rolls around, that dude's commanding like an army practically. Now, is Connor clearly isn't alone, but how widespread is the brotherhood concept in America? That's sort of the big question, right? Maybe it's just one guy.
Well, and as time goes on, these games distance themselves from the original thing, right? Like Altair was an assassin by, you know, he was born into it and you trained for it and stuff, but Ezio just kind of picked it up on the way and discovered about the temple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And now we'll see where this goes.
Like my seat.
I would.
Yeah, we're good.
It's really comfortable.
Thank you, Darren, for getting everything.
Thanks.
12 minutes from now, we are looking at the first ever look at Assassin's Creed 3 in action. We'll be premiering it right here, live. Send your questions to us via Twitter to @IGN, hashtag AC3. We're going to get to as many as possible, but in a lot of ways, you know, we're just learning about this all too. Currently we have the same imagery you guys do, and as much as we've been, we're in this together. So let's see. This is actually a good question based on this box art we're looking at already.
Sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, we've got box art up on the screen, and I mean, like I was saying, sort of. So if you look at Connor, he's in the middle, just slightly to the right, over shoulder, kind of behind the American flag. That's an assassin. It's a dude wearing kind of the traditional hooded garb and everything. Seems to be carrying some sort of rifle, musket of some
And
sort.
actually, real quick, Jared Donen is asking, which is kind of funny. I'm sorry about your name. If I butchered that, I apologize.
It's impossible to pronounce.
Do you think we'll see some new outfits? That white robe could be a bit conspicuous.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, let's not forget though, like snow.
Snow, that's true.
You know, it's snowy on the East
We're
Coast.
seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, snow all over the place. And that's actually an important point, too, is, you know, with Assassin's Creed 2 and those 3 games, you know, you're looking at a lot of big cities, well-established cities, very tall cities, you know, for that time period. And a big element of Assassin's Creed 3 is actually the frontier. Ubisoft has actually said about a third of the game's core missions and stuff are actually set in the frontier, in the wilderness.
Okay, yeah, so to
yeah,
continue
anyway,
with that too,
back to the
Arse Biscuit is asking, how will free running work since there are lots of forested areas?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, apparently, you know, in a sense, you'll be taking to the trees and the mountains and the hills and stuff like that, kind of similarly to how you might a building, right?
Yeah.
So now you'll be scaling a tree versus a building, you know?
Could be some sweet stuff going on with the bow in the trees, all sorts of stuff.
Exactly.
Can we jump over to the look at the first concept art that was leaked?
Yeah, sure.
It's funny, the first time I saw this, I just thought he had really giant pants. But it's the way his legs are bent.
Right.
Actually reveal a lot, because let's see, right here we're... S. Gayton 27 is asking, any info on new weapons? Brotherhood had the crossbow, and Revelations had the bomb. So what's next for AC3?
Sure. So I mean, the big
some of that's here.
The big one's right in his right hand, right here. You're looking at the hatchet. You can even catch like right here where sort of my mouse is pointing. There's an assassin's logo just sort of like etched into the hatchet. So, you know, if Connor had a hatchet or was proficient with a hatchet before he sort of gets pulled into this, someone's clearly giving him a new hatchet. Either that or he's just very lucky and his hatchet happens to look just like an assassin's logo. But yeah, so the hatchet's going to be, you know, shown in a big way. You know, and then obviously looking at sort of guns for the time period, you know, the muskets and that, you know, and flintlock pistols or whatever. Bow and arrow. Yep. That's obviously a big one. So those are the big ones we've seen so far, based on just box art, you know, hatchet again, bow and arrow.
Is the hidden blade back? It's kind
Hidden
of hard
blade
to
is
tell
back.
on his left hand. It looks like it's there.
The hidden blade is back, but you know, we haven't seen it in action. Although, I mean, well, so I mean, this shot's interesting because his hand's sort of like placed like he might be using the hidden blade, but then obviously he's getting ready to.
Could be.
Maybe he's just making sure the hidden blade's already in, and he's just hatches is finishing the job.
I hope he hits, because if he misses, man.
Yeah, might not
For
be
anyone
so
just
good.
joining us, in 8 minutes, we are premiering the Assassin's Creed 3 first ever trailer. We're watching it right alongside you guys. We're going to ask you to be quiet, keep it down out there, so we can all get these details together.
All you guys on the internet, shut up.
Applies to you too, Peter.
Send over your questions via Twitter to @IGN, hashtag AC3. We're digging into what you guys think, what you guys want to know, and trying to answer absolutely everything we can about, you know, trying to pull on some of our high school American history knowledge.
Not mine.
I got a 5 on that AP test. I remember nothing.
I don't even know what that means, man. I'm from Canada. I don't even know my Canadian history.
Oh, nice. All right, good.
I'm going in blind.
You know, we're talking about the weaponry, and actually one of the things that Ubisoft has said is that their focus, and obviously we'll see how this comes across when we actually play the game, which is probably like a month from now, but is the game is supposed to be more aggressive. Connor is supposed to be more aggressive and antagonistic towards his enemies. I mean, I think one of the big things that we all noticed with the other games is that for the most part, you walk up to a dude and then you hold block, and then you wait, and then he attacks, you counter, and then you just chop at him, and you know, and you kind of rinse, repeat, and you know, there was certainly more to the gameplay than that, but that's what you could do. And apparently, Connor is a bit different. Apparently, all the animations are different. I mean, one of the things they're really trying to bring across with this is that this is a major shift for the series. This team has been working for over 2 years on this. And we'll see what happens, right? I mean, you got to keep some of your franchise intact.
Absolutely.
You can't just be like, oh,
but yeah, I definitely
those other
found
four
myself,
games, no big deal.
Once we got to Revelations last fall, I'm still doing the same thing, you know? Sure, there were bombs and grenades. I barely touched them.
No, sure.
I think it's just because I've been trained for so many games in a row to play kind of the same way.
Right.
And,
yeah, I mean, it works. So why would you not do that already works, you know, in the previous games? I mean, I thought the hook blade was kind of an interesting addition.
Yeah, it helped make some jumps and speed a few things up.
Because it was kind of exactly the same ability you had.
I did like zip lining. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
assassination
but that was the thing, right? Is like 2B, 2R were incremental upgrades. They were annual installment upgrades to 2, and you know, so you're just kind of.
The big shift is kind of this team's game, though. Like the first between 1 and 2, massive shift.
Jump, huge jump.
Huge overhaul. And if it's the same crew, we could be seeing something very similar.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this history a little bit. So we're getting a lot of questions about people coming up with ideas about the time period and having some thoughts on that.
No, Abraham Lincoln is not in this game. I actually saw somebody make that comment. The Civil War is far away from many years. Abraham Lincoln is not being assassinated. Please go look at a history book.
Bruna says,
I knew that.
Okay, greetings from Brazil. What is up, Brazil? Good morning, or good afternoon. What time is it there?
No.
Hi, Brazil. He's asking, in our opinion, who will be the Templar historical villain?
The
Queen.
But that's the king. Technically.
Man, I don't know anything about history.
It's okay. They have a queen now.
Okay.
It used to be a king.
Yep.
That's sort of the big question, right? Is because your instinct tells you British somebody something, right?
Yeah.
But Ubisoft, again, has made it kind of clear that that's not necessarily what you might expect. You will be seeing figures like George Washington and Ben Franklin, and actually how amazing would it be if George Washington... Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
I was just about to say that. How awesome would that be if they were actually the villains? But yeah, so I mean, you will be seeing historical figures in the game, but who exactly is the bad guy and who is the good guy actually might be a little more suspect than you think, you know? So we'll see.
For anyone, it is the same villain as the guy in The Patriot starring Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah, the Jason Isaacs dude. Scowls a lot.
You already remember more about that movie than I do. I was just making a broad joke.
Anyone just tune in. We're 4 minutes away from premiering the Assassin's Creed 3 first ever trailer. First glimpse of the game in action we're going to see. Tweet over your questions to @IGN, #AC3. We're going into some stuff right now. We're going to all go silent and take a look at the trailer together in 4 minutes.
Do I just press play on this? Because the plan changed now.
We want to make sure we get it right for you guys.
It's live, right?
So while he's figuring out the tech stuff, Mitch, what do you think here? Whitney Whelan's asking, with the Constitutional Convention, which you remember really well,
I remember vividly.
Do you think the Templars will be present to try and shape the government structure?
Yeah.
During the Constitutional Convention takes place during this time period.
Right.
The big,
that's going to be very different if Connor breaks in. Maybe Connor writes it himself.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, how are they going to shoehorn
Thomas
him into
Jefferson?
It? He's going to sign it like, I am John Hancock.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
on top of that, like additional events, John Barley's saying, hey, do you think we'll be able to visit any famous battles or events like the Tea Party?
Valley Forge for sure, right?
What year was that?
I mean, a lot of this stuff takes. I mean, so 1753, and please forgive me if I'm butchering this because it's live and I'm not. You know, I have vague notes. The French-Indian War that took place before the American Revolution. That takes place roughly towards the beginning of this game.
Okay.
So you're actually. 1753 is prior to the Revolution and a lot of the big conflicts with the British. And so you actually might see a lot before then.
Like Paul Revere, British are coming.
Sure. I mean,
one if by sea, two if by land,
conceivably
three
all
if
that
by
is in here.
Assassin.
Conceivably all that. What?
I don't know. I guess he's on Paul Revere's side.
Conceivably all that could be in here. It just depends on how they want to frame the game, really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're talking about 30-year history, so you're gonna have to jump around a little bit.
Absolutely.
So you know, I mean, is Connor going to be a kid kind of during some of this?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, at what
how
point,
old is he?
Yeah, how old is he at? In 1753? Do we think he's a kid, or do we think he's going to be like 20 by then and maybe aged, kind of like Ezio did throughout the series?
Yeah, because by the time the war's starting, he'd be like 25 if he was born around the beginning of this game. Which seems about the right age for a very nimble assassin.
Yeah.
Everybody, we are 2 minutes away from premiering the Assassin's Creed 3 first ever trailer. We're getting a little bit excited in here. The excitement is palpable. Tweet over your questions to @IGN, #AC3. We're going to get into as much as possible, and as soon as 1.5 minutes are up from now, we're all going to go very silent. We'll ask YouTube as well, please, out there on the internet. And we'll dig into this trailer. We're going to watch it once. We'll give you our reactions, tell you what we notice, and then we'll probably watch it again and go a little slower and talk about some more stuff that this trailer reveals that we didn't know from the box art and these little amounts of details that have leaked out so far.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sort of an interesting thing about this trailer is like...
1 minute, guys.
Ubisoft is going to be pretty cautious, I think. You know, there's a lot we still don't know. You know, we had a full cover story in Game Informer, and there's still a lot we don't know. So, you know... I would think you're just, you know, you're going to get like an overview of the game, right?
The information that's out there is really, really basic level stuff.
It is, yeah. I mean, we know about the character, but like, do we know how he plays? You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of technical details where Ubi is sort of like, yeah, there's a brotherhood.
All right, are you guys ready?
We're ready?
Before we get into too much, it's 8:59. This is going to take over any minute now. We're going to hit play on this first ever trailer. Tweet us your questions to @IGN, #AC3. We're going to go silent. You're not going to hear from us for a while. We're going to do the trailer. Okay. It's 9 a.m. Are you guys ready? Assassin's Creed 3, the trailer. Go.
Here we go.
Must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.
There's a pre-order.
There's a pre-order. That was the first look.
Yeah.
First reactions, guys.
That thing with the musket was ridiculous.
It's pretty good, right?
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to play it one more time, and we'll break it down a little bit as we go.
Yeah.
Mention a few things, because we were...
One thing that's key is I'm told that this is in-engine. This is not in-game, obviously, because you're...
We're back to the trailer?
Yeah. They can hear us, though. Okay.
Okay.
So, but
Lots of snow.
This is in-engine, though, so that means, like, this is their new thing at work. You know, this is the new Anvil tech at work.
We're definitely in the Animus. You get the
you can see the
breakdowns there. It looks like there's a lot of nighttime gameplay.
Yeah.
Which makes sense with there's not a lot of buildings for stealth that under the cover at night this is happening. There might be an animal element? What does this mean?
What's the wolf element?
The wolf element.
We'll talk about that more in a bit. You know, obviously a huge focus on the wilderness here. They want you to get the sense that, you know, you are not just around buildings like you used to be. big gameplay, big.
Yeah, and here it goes. This looks like this is what the climbing is going to be.
Yeah,
this is going to be the fluidity.
Trees.
This is how you stay out of sight and make things happen.
I mean, it's a huge emphasis, being in the wilderness. And obviously, people are asking, are you witness to major battles? Are you involved in them?
Looks like
he's like a pretty
he's
good.
pulling some cloth off of soldiers or something. It's kind of a makeshift assassin uniform even.
Yeah, there's George, I think.
Old Georgie.
I'm going to assume it's George, although...
Give these guys liberty or give them death.
Yeah, exactly. I mean...
They're all getting death right now.
that didn't look so good for them.
Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, a lot of the things we were just talking about are actually, directly involved with this. You want to know about battles? Big battles, right there, So, keep the questions coming, Pete, but we'll keep looking at this. So, one of the things you were asking, Pete, wilderness, right?
Absolutely.
So,
big part of this.
And it actually is more than you would even think. So, let's see, where are them wolves?
Real quick, anyone out there, we're digging through this first ever trailer for Assassin's Creed 3. Tweet us your questions to @IGN, #AC3. Oliver M pointed out, oh no, I didn't see a hidden blade.
Okay, so they aren't showing it. I mean, Ubi is trying to really, show the differences this time around.
Yeah.
And they're not going to show the hidden blade, but we have confirmation that it isn't here.
Okay.
Real quick about the wilderness. You see the wolves here, obviously in the frontier, tearing apart some guards. This is actually deeper than you might realize. So not only is there wilderness and, there's going to be animals just in the environment, but you can actually hunt animals and take their pelts and use them. It's actually a part of the currency, in-game currency. There is money in the game, but just like back then, you can actually do fur trading and stuff like that. And there's actually, they've said that the quality of your kill will determine how much value the pelt has.
Yeah.
If you hit a heart instead of like a face.
Correct. So if I go up to a bear, and I'm just going to fight this bear.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm going to go fight this bear, but if I can kill the bear in one hit, that skin is worth a lot more than if I kill him in 8 or 10 hits.
Do we have confirmation on bear counter kills?
Oh man, I hope so. I want to see. That'd be great.
Let's see. Stephen Alexander's asking, do you think the Brotherhood has been hired by one of the sides? I don't think they really play by money, do they?
Not really.
It's like this ongoing conflict. Exactly.
The whole gist of it is, you're looking at the Templars and the Assassins, and they have different views about how they want to fix and make the world better.
Yeah.
One is through control. The Templars are through control and actually really dictating how things go. Assassins believe more in free will.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So one thing here. Eagles, traditional part of the Assassin's Creed franchise, typical symbol.
He's wearing it on his hood.
Now we're looking at bald eagle. Makes
America's
sense.
It just
eagle.
screams America.
Yeah.
Now that eagle looks rather large. Do you think we could ride it into that sunset?
I sure hope so. It's like Lord of the Rings meets Assassin's Creed.
Not quite.
Yeah, and again, we were mentioning the Animus. You kind of see hints at it there. Obviously, hatchet play, big part of this.
Yeah, if you scroll back, you'll see the first time we pointed out earlier in the stream that it actually has the Assassin's logo kind of in the gap in
the
there.
hatchet, right? Yeah, let's show that.
To improve airflow as you're chopping into somebody's head.
I mean, that thing just looks, it looks like the Assassin's Creed logo. Just
that's a
flat out
design.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, and again, as we're kind of watching Connor just take down some dudes here, some poor fellows.
This speaks a lot to what you said about aggression. It doesn't look like there's any. When you would run up to somebody and hit him with your sword in 2 and Brotherhood and Revelations, it would kind of enter combat. But there, it looks like he can just storm through guys.
The whole idea is fluidity. Obviously, you see him there. He's got some sort of knife. I'm not even sure what that is. That's not a hidden blade, obviously.
No, it's not.
But he's got some sort of short blade.
And if we look at this actually juxtaposition of the two scenes.
Good job, Rich.
This whole Connor bit here is taking place at night, under the cover of darkness.
Right.
But what we're looking at with the wolves is actually the daytime reaction of the bodies left over from what he did.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is indicating that there's going to be a day-night
there is
flow cycle and how long bodies last. And
from what we're told is not only do you see the evolution of sort of environments throughout time, there's also seasons. Obviously, there looks like clear indication of day-night. But so for example, you see this battlefield coming up here. So this might be whatever year this is going to be. I don't know if it's 1777, like the beginning of the trailer said, or if this is a different time period.
Yeah.
But big battle here, right? You might come back 5-10 years later, and you'll see the remnants of the battle and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of just here is the over time, the evolution of this.
So scroll it back real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go back to the first glimpses at the tree gameplay and looking at how we're going to maneuver through this world.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone was wondering, like, when this first came up, like, okay, you know, America in that time period, sure, there's some decent sized buildings in the bigger cities, but you know, how is it going to compare to Europe, you know, with its huge cathedrals and giant towers? This is it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I buy into this immediately.
This is like, this is America back then was like the great outdoors, you know, huge untouched expanses of wilderness.
Yeah.
That's why it's bringing in, you know, the whole Native American element where, you know, the close to nature and that whole thing. So it's that balance. Not only is this like the start of when America was born, but it starts, you know, hint at expansion and kind of, there might be some kind of thematics going on about like, this is nature, this is, you know, the power of nature, and then here's these guys trying to resettle our lands.
Which speaks to his native heritage.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things, and just to point out, I mean, we've seen his sort of like artistic design and whatnot, but you look at his outfit, you know, and there's just clear hints about, you know, not only his Native American heritage, but, you know, he's got kind of the vest going on with the buttons and everything like that. But then, you know, the headdress at the top. Now, I mean, he has the usual peak of the sort of assassin sort of symbol, but then he's sort of got a more Native American kind of eagle-like logo
on this front, on the costume front. Jamil's asking, do you think Connor's outfit fits in with the setting of the game?
No.
I think it works for what the franchise calls for.
Yeah.
You're not going
to. I mean, what we saw too ahead, once you get to the battle, it's kind of a ragtag bunch of soldiers.
Sure.
Like they have kind of mismatched colors, and he has kind of the same thing here. Like he has a little bit of a blue button-down bit. Yep. And it's different than earlier in the trailer, I believe. In the box art, he didn't have those blue flourishes.
Maybe?
I could be wrong.
We've seen images of him wearing that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least... So there is confirmation that you're able to upgrade his weaponry and his outfits like every other Assassin's Creed game. But... Yeah.
You're right. Okay, you're right. It's there.
Yeah, we got it. It's just dark.
This looks like it might be out in the same, like, 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who even knows if this is, like, straight out from... I love that part. It's so good. The greatest part.
Let's see. Kyle Bootsy Collins has a question from the past ones that might tie in. He says, wasn't there a glyph puzzle in a previous AC that implied Washington had a piece of Eden?
Yeah, the apple of Eden. Yeah, we'll see. It will be interesting to see if that outright is true, or if it's some sort of like myth, or like, you know, it'll be curious to see like exactly how much. But again, they've been working on this for years, so who's to say that doesn't actually pan out? Personally, I will be excited to see Connor like sort of work and navigate through history, but I don't. When you start getting into the weird, like, Apple of Eden and all that sort of stuff, it loses me a little bit.
I'm with you.
And whenever Desmond shows up, I'm just like, please, go away. But,
you know, rewind it back to one of the battles. Nicholas Sinclair's asking, I've heard rumors...
The big battle or the...
earlier, when he's taking out the soldiers.
Sure.
Nicholas Sinclair's asking, I heard rumors of dual-wielding weapons. Does the trailer confirm this?
It certainly is.
We did notice at one point, you said he had a knife in his hand while the hatchet was in the other hand.
It looked like he was just holding it and using the hilt to push that guy down.
Yeah,
I don't think he was actually stabbing him in the back.
Yeah, it's...
For anyone just tuning in, we're going through the first ever trailer.
Yep, right there.
Yeah?
He's got a thing.
That's
like a shiv.
It looks like it's actually made out of stone.
Yeah, it could be.
All right. Yeah, he's definitely got two weapons at play.
Yeah, you're right. He sort of pushes him down to be able to
Good call, Nicola.
from.
Anyone out there watching, we're going through the first Assassin's Creed 3 trailer. Tweet us your questions to @IGN, #AC3. We're going to try and pull as many details out of this as we can and get as many questions answered as we possibly can, as we're, you know, just getting into this alongside you guys to learn what we can learn. Let's see. This is kind of an interesting thing, and it's super early because this is obviously all setting and story so far, but Super Sidham's asking, what do you think the multiplayer will be like?
I mean, so I think it's worth noting that the multiplayer is pretty good. You know, they last time around actually, and I thought this was very smart of them. They sort of pulled story into it for the first time, you know, and really started kind of allowing you as you leveled up to discover more about the Templar organization. Actually, so they'll probably, my guess would be, keep that off the table for a little while.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the last elements.
Yeah,
because they're just really trying to establish this new setting, this new world for the next few games in the series. We're assuming.
I think it would be cool if they didn't necessarily keep it entirely colonial and actually allowed you to play as different elements from throughout the series, and let the multiplayer kind of truly be a training ground.
You want to scroll back to the first fights real quick? Michael Tung's asking, the bloodstains on the snow are interesting. Do you think the enemies will get suspicious? There's a lot of, I mean, that's happened in a lot of kind of stealth games where you have to move bodies, because otherwise they're found.
Awareness has always been a thing with Assassin's Creed, right? Like when they started showing the first, the big selling point was people will freak out when they see you climbing buildings. They'll point at you, everyone will get suspicious. When you knock somebody over, people are going to point and go like, who's this guy? So I assume that that's going to continue, and this will be a important part of that.
Maybe the Brotherhood is your wolves.
I know, that's what I was thinking too. Like,
call the wolves.
Because if more British soldiers came upon this scene, wouldn't they assume that the wolves did this to them? They were attacked by wolves?
I don't know. That guy looks like he has a pretty blatant bullet in his face.
That's true.
That's a lot of blood.
Let's see, we had one interesting question about the overall thematics of the time period and the conflict. JD Foster 00 is asking, how do you think they'll market this in the UK because of killing, British soldiers?
People. Right. Yeah. I mean, in terms of marketing, I mean, personally, I don't care how they market it. But again, coming back to, at least from what Ubisoft is saying, there is a pretty, non-black and white approach to how they're dealing with the characters. And obviously, you got to be smart about that. It's a global game, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's where the sort of genius of merging it with the Assassin's Creed franchise comes into play. Because if you're just going to do some sort of American Revolution game, that's going to be tough, right?
Exactly.
And actually, to my knowledge, we've never actually seen an American Revolution game. Unless it's maybe some
History Channel thing.
Or I was thinking maybe some sort of strategy game on the PC or something like that. I'm not entirely sure.
Empire Total War might have been around that time.
Maybe, yeah. But beyond that, we've never seen like an action game like this.
Exactly.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the idea, right? It's going to be a tough impression.
There's a strategy game set around this time period. I can't remember the name of them offhand, but. We actually have a question from Mar Randall that asked something that we sometimes just skip over when we're talking about kind of game lingo, that kind of stuff. But Mar Randall's asking, so this is in-engine, but not in-game.
Correct.
What does that mean?
So it means that it's using the new Anvil engine, to actually render it. This is not pre-rendered. This is like more or less what you could expect to see in the game. And you can kind of tell just by sort of the way the characters look. They look more like you would see something in the game. One thing I will point out, though, there's no AI running. There's no game systems running.
Yeah,
none of that's running.
Scroll back real quick just so we can kind of see the difference between cinematics and how the gameplay would operate otherwise.
The things that I sort of point out that, when you're looking at what would be presumably George here, good old George, is, you can just sort of tell that these are not pre-rendered characters. These look much more like something that you're going to see in a game. You can tell just by how they animate, how they look.
CG trailers tend to look a lot better than this. Not to say that this looks bad at all, because this looks amazing.
Exactly. But when it's pre-rendered, there's just a lot more embellishment and a lot more just kind of, you can do crazier stuff because you can. You look at any sort of Blur trailer and you can they go all out, right?
Yeah.
So this, again, from what I'm told, is what you could kind of expect to see in the game. But again, the game, in order to play a game, you need a camera perspective.
Exactly.
You need your UI. You're going to need your stuff in the upper left-hand part of the screen. You're going to need to be seeing behind Connor so that you can see your environment and, move the camera around. So that's a clue that it's not in-game, of course, right? You're not going to be playing a game that looks like this. But yeah, I mean, and there's just so many little environmental effects and everything like that.
The snow falling off the branches, the
this
wind
sort of
blowing here.
over the
And to be honest, Revelations did some of this just about this. It was close to this, but this is just that next step. This is the next engine. And I think their kind of goal is to kind of bring sort of a almost next-gen look to the current gen.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective of the two different types of style, think of like the original Dead Island trailer. That was total CG, slow-paced, everything. That had nothing to do with the game. If you played Dead Island, it was completely different. So let's roll it back to the beginning of this. Ross Hastings is just joining us. Thanks for tuning in. He's asking, I just tuned in, do we have a character name yet?
Yeah, so character name's Connor. Yeah. He actually has a name from the Mohawk tribe, which I don't dare pronounce. It's brutally long with some weird characters.
It pronounces completely different than the way it looks.
So I won't even pretend to know that one. But yeah, his sort of common name is Connor.
Okay.
So yeah. And yeah, if you're just tuning in, where we're sort of running the trailer back and forth, pointing out cool things.
Yeah, send your questions to @IGN via Twitter, @IGN, #AC3. TJ Napier is asking, do you think you'll be able to fight in the front lines of battle at some point?
If they don't, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
You see, I think they might, because certain scenarios, I think in near the end of Brotherhood, when you go to the final location, where you're kind of running through a battle and avoiding people. And even AC1 in the very end of the game, you fight like you're running through a war there. And even Revelations, like when you go into that one armory, I think. There's like battles going on everywhere, and you're just trying to get to your perspective. So it doesn't. It's not too far fetched that he's going to show up in that fight right there.
Yeah, and I mean, this trailer, from everything we know about the game that we've learned so far, definitely seems to be like setting the tone. Here, not just the tone, but sort of like this is what you can expect from this game.
Exactly.
So if you show me a big battlefield with dudes lining up and the cover is two sides squaring off and Connor's in the middle of it, and then I don't get in a battle, that's like a 6.0 right there. I know those guys.
Well, we hear a lot about there's supposed to be thousands of people on screen at a time. That's what this engine is supposed to be capable of.
Yeah.
So I would assume that that's not just going to be in the background.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, they've actually said so. I mean, like previous games were capable of doing maybe 100 or something like that, and now they are capable of doing up to 1,000.
That's going to be ridiculous.
That's part of the new engine tech. Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of counterattacks, or a lot of blocking and counterattacks. This can take like 3 hours.
The final battle is just one at a time. All those 1,000.
See, James Balmer is asking, do you think we'll have wolf vision instead of eagle vision?
No, because the eagles are a very important
Exactly.
part.
I think if anything, this is
good.
Bald eagle vision.
This further solidifies that eagle vision makes sense in this series.
Yeah.
A couple other notes, just while we're getting more questions and whatnot. No tower defense.
No tower defense.
No, we're all happy about that.
That answers
I'm pretty good with
TJ Napier's other question.
Yeah, there we go. Answering your.
So I don't know if that's good or bad. What you wanted, if you wanted more or less, you don't get it this time.
None at all.
I'm glad of that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that, as they were trying to do different things over the the last couple of years, good experiments never hurt. That was one that we don't need.
Nope. I know. Of all the things in Revelations, I spent the least time doing that. Out of all the other Assassin's games, I spent the least time unlocking things.
I never played it again after the tutorial. I just had no use for it. It was like, your tower is under siege. I don't care.
I mean, and that's the thing, is like, it was kind of goofy because you had to do this big epic fight to protect your lair.
Yeah.
But the funny part was you could just lose, wait a little bit, and then just walk in and kill the dude again and take control of it. It was so much easier to fail and kill the guy than it was to actually defend your lair. So that was weird. One other thing, speaking of sort of layers, the stuff like the big dungeons that you go through, and they're kind of called different things in different games, but the big ones where you're just huge settings.
Very platform heavy, almost
platform heavy.
Exactly.
Those are back. They haven't really specified what, and I'm curious where the hell they're supposed to be in colonial America. But maybe caves or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are supposed to be
White House is pretty big.
Haven't you seen National Treasure?
That is an interesting thing you bring up, though, because if I have my time correct, there will be no White House in this game.
Yeah, I think
because I believe
bring it back to the point where he's fighting off the soldiers in the night. Nate Lee's asking, how do you feel about scalping being a possible gameplay element? At the very end of this, there's a shot that looks like he might be scalping
someone. He's kind of going down for it.
Yeah, but it doesn't show.
He's pulling his hatchet out of the guy's face.
Okay.
Honestly, he jumps at the man on the horse.
It looks like it's hinted at.
If I were a betting man, I would say scalping. But
I would say no.
I would say scalping.
Nope.
There was some discomfort around that when Gun came out, and there was some scalping.
Right there. That's the shot I'm talking about.
There.
It hints that it's a potential thing. We really don't. Yes. Scroll back real quick. What do you guys think? Do you think that's a thing? Does that make sense with like the good intentioned assassins? Is there a reason to?
I think it'd be a silly mechanic to have like a scalp button. But
I mean, I don't want it
quick
to be
time
a
event minigame,
right? I don't want a mechanic.
If
you're going to put it in the game and you want to make it a real, see, like here, it kind of.
You see, he's getting up. His other arm kind of lagged behind a little bit. You can't tell if he's holding anything.
I will say two things. One, I don't want it to be a mechanic. I don't want to be like tapping A furiously. That would make me kind of nauseous. But I mean, I think if you want to acknowledge the reality of how that's just how it was, right? I think we look at it now with like sort of this like, oh man, that's brutal. But that's I think that's just part of how it was back then.
Totally.
So if they are going to be as historically accurate as possible, maybe that's not that is something that Connor believes in. But and this is sort of the challenge, right? That Ubisoft has. You're dealing with a very, very sensitive thing. Like,
Yeah.
also slavery. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, do you deal with that?
I don't
you
think
know,
that-
there's some
Go back
very
real quick to the
dark
tree
parts
gameplay.
of history that you have to deal with. The tree, yeah.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about this? Because obviously the other Assassin's Creeds have kind of set up this, okay, you can jump and
tree?
swing from bars. You know, you can swing from hanging pots, and
okay.
Revelations introduced the long jump off of swinging pots.
Right.
Do you think, I feel like with the things as they currently
Innovation right
are,
there.
it can't, it's not smooth enough to warrant something as random as tree branches.
Sure.
Well, he turns there. He does the pot 90-degree.
Yeah, do you
turn on
think
that.
it's going to be like the same thing, but all these nicely laid out tree
It's
paths?
gonna be hard to see how they.
So that-
I'm curious how this works. Like, can you climb any tree from the bottom?
That's
TBD,
yeah.
I guess.
That's sort of the big challenge. I think they would be smart. You know, I mean, they really trained you this in Assassin's Creed 2, and you sort of don't really hear about it in 2B and 2R. But there's always white cloth wherever
Yeah,
you can
yeah, good
actually
point.
like pop
It's all
up.
very subtle.
So maybe there's a flower
A little bit
at the base of every tree that you can climb up. I mean, again, that's sort of the big problem, right? Is like if your trees are very rigid looking and like, yes, I can clearly come through this path, then that's not going to look very good, right? And you're not going to want to do that. But so it's got to be seamless. It's got to feel natural. Yeah.
For anyone just tuning in, we're going back and forth across this Assassin's Creed 3 trailer. Send us your questions via Twitter to @IGN, #AC3. We're getting to as many as we can. We're looking at this as many times as we can to really try and get to the bottom of what we're seeing here. Let's see. Reese is asking, do you think you'll be able to command the wolves to help you? I think that'd be a great replacement for the Brotherhood.
Yeah,
man.
Like hold tap L, wolves jump out of the trees.
Oh man, out of the trees.
I'm game. I'm game. Let's do
out
it.
of hay bales and snowbanks.
Maybe you can like That'd be amazing.
Just saying.
Hey, you
don't
don't know what they
assassin
did
wolves.
back then. Maybe they could back then. They were like monkey wolves and stuff. I don't know.
Let's see, Zach Carnahan's asking, any word on how the long-range weapons work? They seem a bit different than the previous game.
Yeah, we don't see any bow action.
We've had crossbows,
Yeah.
like in the older ones. So how is this,
And
you know,
pistols too.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it'll be interesting because guns back then were not accurate
It takes
at
like
all.
9 minutes to load.
Yeah, exactly. So like, is that going to be part of it? Obviously, when you're dealing with something like that, you got to sort of balance like the gameplay and realism.
Maybe Ben Franklin will invent him a machine gun.
We actually have heard that Ben Franklin is involved, though to exactly what capacity is difficult to say. Apparently, he does play somewhat of a Leonardo da Vinci role, but we'll see.
That makes sense. I mean, as far as like big names and inventors of the day.
Yeah. We know George Washington. We know Ben Franklin. Charles Lee, who's actually a name I'm not 100% familiar with. I probably was back in like 5th grade or something. But, currently not up to date with. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the big figures of the time will be involved in some capacity.
Hang on, I love that dude who's running, and all he's doing is banging on a drum.
Oh, dude.
He's not doing anything but banging on a drum.
He's like, wish I had a gun, wish I had a gun, wish I had a gun.
Yeah, he's toward the front.
Where is he?
Yeah, it's at the very, very end.
Very end.
See, Chris Zimmerman's asking, do you think the game will have a section in the UK, maybe a chapter in London?
Yeah, man.
That could be cool. I don't know.
Sorry, what, the UK and London?
Yeah, he says, do you think the game will have a section in the UK,
So,
maybe a chapter in London?
One thing you could do, and we were talking about what do you do for sequels and that sort of thing, is maybe that's what you do, and it depends.
Yeah, the other side of the conflict.
I mean, here's the realistic problem, right? Again, you've got the 30-year expanse to cover, so you could do whatever you want, really. But it does take a little bit of time to get over there.
Yeah.
So do you really want to be like, and then
Mass Effect
Connor,
elevator loading screens, but you're on a
Exactly.
ship across the Atlantic
Maybe Ben
instead.
Franklin will invent him an airplane.
True. Good.
I'm onto something.
Okay, so guys, we've been breaking through this Assassin's Creed 3 trailer on IGN.com all week and going forward. We're going to bring you every possible detail we can about this thing.
Yeah, we're actually going to ask you guys what you thought. I mean, you've obviously been giving us your
keep
feedback
this
on
conversation
Twitter,
going.
But we're going to pull in your feedback onto the site itself and publish your comments.
So keep sending your comments and questions to @IGN #AC3. Yep. We have about 5 minutes left here, so we can get a few more questions in, and then we're going to show the trailer one last time and leave you guys with that. So let's see. Aldo Gomez is asking, has customizable armor been confirmed?
Yes.
It has. I didn't know that.
That was easy.
There we go.
And weapons.
Okay.
I mean, here's the thing. A lot of the basic idea of what you saw in previous games applies and will have some sort of implementation in this game. Exactly what and how remains to be seen. Property is back.
Okay,
we just don't know exactly.
Interesting.
We just don't know exactly how it's back, right?
Yeah.
So they could change it up completely. I mean, that was sort of the I liked it in AC2, but by 2B and 2R, I started to get a little tired of it because basically I would spend all my money buying everything in sight, and then I would just go put the game down and walk away for an hour or two, or actually more than that, and then come back to like
more money.
wealth beyond my wildest imaginations, and then just buy everything in sight. So I think they need some adjustments there, but yes, it's back.
Okay. Let's see. Rari's asking, do you think we'll be able to throw the tomahawks? I don't think the trailer showed that.
No, it doesn't.
It was all in. It was in his hand the whole
That
time.
thing seems pretty attached.
That the tomahawk strikes me as more of a sword type idea,
Maybe your
or
knife,
short
it's the
sword.
equivalent of your knife.
Yeah, I mean, because he could probably have quick knives too. I think that throwing the tomahawk might be a bit ambitious because
You have to go get it every time.
And then it's just gone. Like, I don't know where it's in.
You're like trying to get it out of a tree.
he throws it in his snow. Like, it's gameplay, tapping A real quick
It
so he
flies
can
off
like
of that cliff.
Yeah.
See, JB's asking another question about what's going to be available and what you can do. Do you think the hook blade will be back?
With
This begs the question, like, what do the assassins transfer, like, down the line and across the world, you know? Like,
It
what
seems like the hidden
technologies
blade
do they share?
The hidden blade and the general sort of like traditional outfit to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it's sort of each culture's implementation of the rest of it. I don't think the hook blade's going to be back.
Could fit that role perfectly, right?
Yeah.
He could use it to jump higher. He can use it to get on tethers if he needs to slide down.
I just don't know what you're going to tether to really
exactly
in colonial America.
to
Down on
what
the second
extent,
floor.
for you guys, like, in the last few games, I stick to, like, 1 or 2 weapons. Like, I use my hidden blades for almost everything.
I
didn't even
butcher knife, and that was the only thing.
Like, you end up with this huge weapon wheel of options of stuff you can equip, but do you actually use all that? I never did.
Some. I use the knives a lot.
Yeah.
Poison if you want to go undetected.
Screw poison, I don't need poison. I use the hidden blade, the knives, and I'll bring out a big weapon whenever I'm feeling arrogant. That's about it.
Let's go on one last thought to kind of leave everyone with. Jesse Sessler's asking, as the game progresses through time, there seems to be less of a focus on assassins versus Templars. What do you think about that?
I think that's really true. Like we said earlier, we're distancing ourselves from the origins of the assassins. Like we're seeing nighttime stuff. Like assassins, just the original assassins in Altair's era just didn't assassinate people in nighttime. A big part of being an assassin was having the stones to kill someone in broad daylight. And Ezio had a bit of that, and then the odd nighttime mission. And yeah, I think as we progress through time, they are losing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's certainly a movement they're making.
I think that if this is Desmond's final journey or whatever, that's what Desmond's supposed to be, is sort of supposed to be giving us that larger context. And I think that at least in the last 2 games, Ubisoft may have failed in that, because I just find Desmond annoying. Like, I don't actually feel like I'm learning anything from him. I just want to get back to the other stuff. So I think that's their great challenge, right? If that is important to them, they better do a better job of making me care, because all I want to do is go run through the wilderness and tomahawk dudes. You know,
All right, Vinny, so sorry to cut you off.
No.
We've been talking about this for an hour now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're about to show you the Assassin's Creed 3 first ever trailer one more time, but keep the conversation going. Send your questions to @IGN, #AC3. To answer everyone's question, which we're getting just mountains of, yes, the hidden blade is confirmed for Assassin's Creed 3. It just isn't shown in the trailer.
I'm glad that people are worried about it. It just goes to show
That's my absolute favorite element.
It's like
as well.
the lightsaber. Like, if you have a Star Wars game without a lightsaber, useless Star Wars game.
Like the first half of every Kyle Katarn game.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been IGN Live presents Assassin's Creed 3, the reveal trailer. Let's watch it one more time.
Must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.